Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ryan Kelly. I'm a director at PayPal, and joining me today later on stage will be Cody Lowe. He's a sales engineer at Replit, and today we're going to talk about vibe coding. But first, this week, I know you've had a chance to attend a lot of sessions. I'm sure you've noticed that at PayPal, we're very serious about meeting developers where they are. We're doing this by enabling agentic commerce and code assist solutions using your favorite tools. So for example, we've teamed up with Replit to deliver a seamless integration with PayPal. And I see some familiar faces in here. If you had a chance to attend the V6 demonstration earlier today or the Server SDK demonstration and walkthrough, we're actually going to show how to integrate that today without writing a single line of code. So with PayPal and Replit, you can go from idea to commerce in just a few minutes. And we're going to demonstrate this later, but this can be as simple as asking your Replit agent, add PayPal to my commerce site. Okay, so show of hands, who has been vibe coding lately? All right, not bad, not bad. Well, Andrej Karpathy coined this term back in February of this year, and he said, there's a new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where you fully give into the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that code exists. It sounds pretty great, right? Well, when vibe coding, you are describing what you want to build, what technologies you want to use, and what integrations you might want, like PayPal, for example. And what's great about vibe coding is it allows you to focus on creating value for your customers and exploring your ideas quickly. And I don't know about you, but the first thing when learning a new technology is I want to figure out how to build a game. That's what got me interested in engineering in the first place. But the second thing is I want to attempt to monetize it. And I was able to do both of these things with Replit and PayPal in just a few minutes, less than an hour. So let's check out the game I built. Again, this was built in less than an hour. It includes full functional game and PayPal integration. So what you see here is a game called Candy Match. There's 3 levels of difficulty, easy, medium, and hard. I'm going to go into the easy game. And the objective of the game is to match 3 tiles. And as you match the tiles, you earn points along the way. It tracks how many moves you've made. And since I'm on easy, I have 15 total moves. I have a 6x6 grid. As it goes up in complexity, you get fewer moves, but larger grid. So here I'm matching different tiles, earning points along the way. Hopefully. One interesting thing I want to share is that when building this game, I didn't actually describe the look and feel. I didn't ask about specific tiles. But what I implemented here was an upgrade game functionality. And this allows me to monetize the game. So here you get a modal. Customers can buy a lollipop hammer, for example. Includes PayPal with checkout. Everything you've seen implemented is using our V6 SDK and our server SDKs under the cover. I'll go ahead and complete my checkout. I have my lollipop hammer. But let's talk about some of the prompts I used to build this. I mentioned I did it in less than an hour. Here's some key prompts that I used. So first, just to build the game, I said build a Candy Match game with different levels of difficulty. Make it look professional and colorful. And this is the result I got. It was a little bit lighter. I had to adjust the colors, but other than that, this was the fully functional game that I got. Next, in order to monetize the game, I asked it to add an upgrade button on the menu page, which was the yellow button that you saw during the demonstration. When clicked, display a modal with a list of upgrades that are $5 each. So you see the extra moves, 10 gold bars, and the lollipop hammer. But next, I said add a PayPal button next to cancel that lets a customer pay for their upgrades. Now you see the PayPal button displayed on the modal. And that's it. And Cody is going to come up on stage, and he's going to demonstrate how you can actually add your PayPal integration to your site.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Sweet. Yeah, so I'm Cody. I'm a sales engineer at Replit. And for those of you who haven't used it before, Replit's kind of like the all-in-one. We're going to build the full stack app for you. So I'll show you what it kind of looks like of getting started with a new app, continuing iterating and adding new features. I'll sort of narrate along the way of like what the AI agent is doing for me at the time. And like I said, we build the full stack app for you, and we try to build it production ready from the beginning. So a very big difference that I see with Replit is that most of the time, once you get the prototype done, getting up to the MVP step takes a couple more prompts. Getting up to production readiness, because we do the correct software architecture decisions at the beginning of we're going to do client, server, first-party integration with the database, natively implement auth for you, all out of the box, that people can go all the way to production and immediately start testing ideas with users. And also very useful for building internal tools for your companies, right? So like, hey, I want a tool that does X, Y, or Z, and that's what we're going to do today. So as an example, I really haven't found a good live polling software for like getting audience interaction for that. And so this is something I might want to just build with Replit real fast, right? So here's a prompt for it of saying, hey, build me a web-based live polling application called Polly. And so I'd kick it off. It's going to start the build. This is going to provision the cloud environment for me. It's going to do all the package management for me, and then it's going to present a plan for me, and then go step by step for building out the full application. And so if we just give it a couple seconds, it'll kick back what the plan is. And because we're provisioning the full cloud environment for you, is that we can basically write and run whatever language you want. Like the agent will normally recommend TypeScript or Python because most of our users, like they just want like build the application. Like they don't go into the details of, hey, I want to use X, Y, or Z. But if you do, it'll do it for you. And so for here, it'll say we've got the plan. Build the initial prototype. It's going to do modern web app, so React and TypeScript. It's going to use WebSockets for the communication. And let's check off a couple of these features. Hit approve, plan, and start. And then it'll start building it out for me, right? And that's how easy it is. And so the first step, it's going to do like an HTML preview. And so first, it's going to stream that back. It'll take about 2 minutes. And then once that's done, it's going to rewrite the whole end-to-end application in TypeScript. It'll provision the database, set up auth, all those steps for it. And so I'll just let this run for a second so you can kind of see it start to go through. Then we're going to flip over to a prompt that I ran a little bit earlier today of the same thing, and we'll see what the outcome looks like. So here it's just finishing up the CSS. And once we get to the HTML, then you'll start seeing it stream it, right? And so again, this is just like the wireframe step, but it'll build the full stack application afterward. And then once it's done, you'll end up with something like this. And so here's Polly, elegant real-time polling, and like it totally works. And so if I wanted to go in and add a PayPal integration for it, and so I say, hey, add a pay to vote twice option that someone can click after voting on a poll that lets them submit a second vote for $10 and use checkout with PayPal. And so I just send that to the agent, and I can continue doing this with all the different features and integrations that I want. And so once I kick that off, then we'll see that it triggers the PayPal blueprint. And so it'll properly install and configure the server SDK. It'll configure the client button. And then in just a couple of minutes, you'll see that it'll write all the code for you. And again, this is like a full VM for you. And so you can use this in conjunction with like all of your other normal dev tools. Every time that the agent does a unit of work, it's doing a Git commit. Like all the database versioning that we're doing is tied into those Git commits as well. So we find this like a really good all-in-one tool for just what Andre Karpathy said of like just giving into the vibes of not having to think about the code yourself, and that just handles it all for you. So I'm going to let this continue going and show you what this looks like at the very end. So oops, sorry. Back to my agent chat. So the message that I sent, like I said, was add a pay to vote twice option that someone can click. And you can see that it properly does all the package management for me. It goes through, it asks me for my PayPal client ID and client secret, and then stores those securely using Replit's secret manager that uses Google Cloud Google Cloud Secrets, the vault. Then once it goes in, writes all the files that it needs. It updates the database schema and continues doing it. It's our first-party integration with Neon for Postgres. And then at the end, we have it available. And so let's actually just give this a try. So this is running right now. So I'm going to go over here. I use Replit auth for logging in. Say, go to my dashboard. I'm going to create a new poll. Say, what feature would you like me to implement next on Polly? And then the last time I ran this, which was a little bit earlier, the one they recommended was doing a generate with AI button. And so we added that live during this. So I'll use this for generating some options. Or do we have any requests for a feature that I could add for Polly, this next one? No? Add a what to the option? Email? Emote. Oh, okay. Yeah. Add emotes to the options. Okay. Add emotes to the options. Let's do another one. Let's do for the winning option when I close the poll, do a confetti animation. Something like that, right? So I can create the poll. And like I said, this is live and this works, so you guys can vote on this right now, right? So you guys want to pop your phones out, you can just scan that QR code, and then it'll let you do the vote. And then we can see it pop out. There we go. I'll let this run for another maybe 2 minutes. Pretty neck and neck. Emotes takes the lead. There we go. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'm going to close the poll. And our agent is extremely performant, so I think it can probably actually do both of these in one go. And so I'm just going to go back over here. And I'm going to say, add emotes to the different options when the people are voting. And when I close the poll, add a confetti animation and clear marking for the winner. Winning option. There we go. Right? And so you can kind of think about this as like the new way to build apps, at least to get like the first 80 or 90%. And then as AI gets better and better, you can get all the way to production, normally without having to pull in that engineering resource. And so while this runs, we can kind of watch it in the background. I'm going to tell you a quick story about some of the enterprise use cases that we've seen for Replit. And so one of the most common things that I hear from product managers and like other sort of leaders within the organization is that they're limited by engineering cycles, is that they have a bunch of ideas and that they're normally limited on, I have to be able to justify pulling an engineer off product to build this internal tool for me. Or I have to test out this idea and I know that it's going to work, or I have a feeling it's going to work, but I want to start getting user feedback for it. And then normally 3 or 4 weeks of thrash between going to design, engineering, like clearing that with like the normal overall strategic roadmap and all that kind of thing, right? For like one of our customers, enterprise customers, Zillow, they had this exact problem where they said, hey, we know a bunch of things that we want to do to improve the experience of matching people with realtors when they're going onto the Zillow site, but we just don't have the engineering resources to do it. So the guy in charge of the realtor performance over there, like he just coded up for himself on Replit. He got about 90% of the way there, and then he was able to show all of his leadership and say, hey, this is what I've been trying to get you on board with. Once they saw it, they understood it, and they said, okay, this makes sense to me. Like I've tested it with a couple of realtors. It looks like it's performing well. And like overall, then he finally pulls in the engineer. Instead of the engineer having to implement the whole thing, the engineer is just basically doing a security review at the end and then doing those last little production steps of that the AI can't get to yet, is like just give it a couple months and it'll get significantly further. And then they went to production with it, and it moved the realtor performance metric that it was like his key target metric, it improved it by 10%, which is incremental revenue for them of millions of dollars at their scale, right? And so for that, you can think about basically everybody in the organization who wants to do something and is limited by engineering resources, being able to get 80 to 90% of the way there prior to that. Right, and like we've got dozens of stories of this across the across tons of different industries. It's still going through. Okay, I'll tell one more story while it's going through. So, like another thing that we found extremely valuable with Replit is that we're trying to make correct software architecture decisions for you out of the box. And so Replit's kind of background is that up until like we were founded in 2018 is trying to be like the easiest place to learn to code. And so a lot of the rails that we would put you on of like, hey, we're going to properly do all of the database versioning. We're going to properly force you into like good Git hygiene practices for your version control. We're going to properly implement auth for you. All that sort of stuff you get out of the box when you start working on Replit. And so you can kind of say, hey, I'm going to build out this prototype application, but it's not something where it's going to throw it away and have to go re-implement the whole thing to go to production. We're building the full stack app for you from the beginning and putting you on really good rails so that when you do want to go to production, this is something that is immediately scalable and that I can actually go up to that. And when I am ready to go live, then I can just go over here to deployments and then hit redeploy. Right? And this one's using an auto scale service where it'll just do it. If nobody's using it, it'll just say idle. If it goes, if you like blows up and 10,000 or 20,000 people start using it, then it'll just scale up in order to address that traffic for you. It automatically handles all the anti-abuse, span mechanisms, all those kinds of things that you would want in order to go live with that. Cool. It's continuing through. It's taking slightly longer than I wanted it to. Okay, and you can see here that now it's doing git commits as it's working, right? And so at any point, you can always go back. You can go view what it looked like when you wanted it to. So I could like go open the preview over there, right, and do a live preview of it at the time. I can view the changes, or I can always roll back for it. And something that we're seeing a lot of is people being able to experiment and validate like 20, 30, 40 ideas during the week, where previously they would have to like fight for the engineering resource in order to justify making an MVP just to test one of those ideas, right? Okay, here we go. Did the first part, now it's doing the confetti. It's going to implement all the changes in one go, which is exciting. There you go. Just did 6 edits in a row. I think that's the last step. It's probably going to take one more. It's going to debug its own syntax errors, which is fantastic. All right. Okay. It's looping. It's going to get to it, and that'll finish it up. But in the meantime, I can jump over here, and we can do another poll for this one. Create new poll. We could do this, or sorry. Okay. There we go. Go to dashboard. I'm going to create a new poll. I'm going to say, will this work? Yes? No? Okay. Okay. And here's the QR code. So let's take votes on this and see how. Okay. Audience is confident. This is what I like to see. Okay. The emoji showed up? Oh, they did? Okay, let's see what it looks like from your perspective. We got the emojis. Excellent. There we go. Yep. And then So now here, let's do close poll, and we're going to see if this goes confetti. Did you get confetti? Here, yes. Poll closed. Confetti! Yeah! There we go. There we go. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so you can basically think about that with everything, right? I mean, like for me, for this perspective, and I'm hearing this more and more, is that like it's sometimes faster to just like build your own version yourself than it is to even have to go look at all the like current alternatives that are out there to see what supports the feature that you want, right? And so anything where you're like, hey, I'm paying too much for this thing, it's got 43 features, I only use 4 of them, like you take 20 minutes to like rebuild it with Replit, and then suddenly you have like an artifact that's useful to you and your team, like within your company, which is pretty cool. Sweet. Yeah, so that's the end of my demo here, but oh, this is the version that it made today for when I kicked it first off. But sweet. Yeah, that's the end that I have. So Ryan, I think you're going to hop back up. Oh, wait, sorry. I got to show the PayPal one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So here, when I go do that, I get the test, create poll. When I go here, share, then it has my vote again that I didn't. Am I on the wrong version? Sorry, I just had this. Sorry, I'm hopping around a little bit. There you go. Pay $10 to vote again. Pay with PayPal. It is there. Sorry, that's not on the deployment. Yeah. There we go. Connects up to my wallet, just the same way that he did. But I did this one live, which is cool. Okay, sweet. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, thank you, Cody. It's brave doing a live demo during today's presentation. Okay, so a couple of things just to close out here today. So first of all, I mentioned this in the beginning. We're on a mission to meet developers where they are, right? So I know if you attended the V6 SDK session earlier or the server SDK session, what you saw under the covers with Cody's demonstration there, you're going to get the latest integration right out of the box. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that real quick. But when you're vibe coding, there's a few key takeaways that we want to make sure we share. So first of all, be precise. So I know we had quite a few folks in the audience who have been vibe coding lately. So you probably have learned a lot about what models are capable of or what they're not capable of right now. But be precise. So avoid open-ended prompts. Best you can, provide clear and specific directions. Otherwise, there's a lot of ambiguity, and it leaves a lot of the decision-making up to the AI models, and you may not always get the desired outcome. So next is to break down your tasks. So just as you would if you're developing an application by hand, normally you kind of go through that mental exercise of figuring out, okay, here are the steps I need to take to build my application. It's really the same process that you want to follow when building your applications using AI. This also helps with the next point, which is to use checkpoints. So Cody talked about how Replit provides this built-in rollback capability. Well, as you break down your tasks, it provides kind of like clear delineation between those tasks. And if something, maybe you don't get the output that you're looking for, you can roll back to a previously stable point in your application and then kind of fine tune your prompt and adjust as necessary and figure out what's working. And then the last thing is to ask questions. I mean, it is an AI agent. You are having a text-based conversation with your agent. Don't be afraid to ask the agent any questions about, maybe why it made certain decisions or what frameworks were implemented. This is your opportunity to kind of learn what's going on under the covers and sort of its thought process, so to speak. And then, like I mentioned earlier, so another like a few more takeaways here. So I talked about how we're on a mission to meet developers where they are. Next is use vibe coding techniques on platforms like Replit to go from idea to application quickly. So now you can go from not just building your application, whether it's a game, whether it's an e-commerce site, whether it's a live poll application, and add PayPal integration to whatever it is that you're building. I mentioned earlier, you can do this literally without writing a line of code. And the best way to learn is to do. And with vibe coding, it's a great opportunity where it's not a huge time investment. You can literally leave this session, sit down, start using Replit or any other platform to build your applications and add PayPal to your sites. And last, just to recap here, this was vibe coding. We want you to monetize your application builds using PayPal and Replit. We have teamed up with them to build an optimized integration. So please take the opportunity to go out and experiment and learn and see what's working. And I think with that, we still have some time for questions. Do you want
Yep. How large of a code base do you think it can functionally handle before error rates pick up? Some of the projects I've done, I've been able to push like pretty reliably like 5,000 lines.
Yeah, so we can do significantly more than that. The real limits for it are just basically context windows for the LLM providers that we use, and we use all the frontier models and then it's also for us, like this is kind of like the day-to-day work that we do of just improving that and like, doing accurate summarization of other parts of the code base and stuff. Replit's like real sweet spot right now is building new applications. So if you want to work on like legacy code, there's like really great like 10x the 10x engineer kind of things. But like for legacy code bases, like from our perspective, like vibe coders and people who are not trained engineers probably shouldn't be touching those as much. The things that we're really good at is let's build a new application. And so when you start from there, you can get significantly further generally than you think you can, right? And so what we found most of the time is that like product managers who assume that they're only going to do like a 50% prototype or something are getting all the way to like 99% done, and they actually just need like a security review at the end by like the DevOps or the IT guys before they go live. I've seen, it always surprises me like the size of the code bases that they're able to end up creating. And then the other element of it is just on our side is like every day, like that's one of the big problems that we're trying to solve and that like we work on so that like people don't have to be thinking about it while they're working on it. But the experience you get when using Replit is like, it will blow you away with how complex you're able to get it, right? Just it's going to defy a lot of the assumptions that most people have when they start using the tool.
Most of the examples I've seen and done have been TypeScript, Express, and/or Next. Does it do that for a reason? Does it perform better, or does it not perform as well on like Rails or Elixir and any other potential options?
Yeah, so what I can say is on the Replit side, like we have the infrastructure in place to be able to run whatever language you want. So, sorry, the question was, why do most of these demos and why do most of the coding agents really focus on TypeScript and Python versus things like Rust, Elixir, Go, like some of these other languages? So for us, like we have the infrastructure in place to support all of that. The performance of the LLMs that we're calling, like they just perform significantly better on TypeScript and Python simply because of the amount of open source code that they were trained over, right? And like the amount of code that they're done for those. And like for the LLMs, it's like if it's outside the distribution, the training data, it's like hard to get it to do that. And so they just generally perform that way and better. And so, but infrastructure-wise on Replit, like if I prompted agent right now and said like, hey, make me a bare bones Rust application, like it would do it. Just the performance isn't as good. So when we try to put people into defaults, like for us, like the vast majority of our users, like they don't say what stack they want to use. They actually never write a line of code themselves at this point, right? Like they're just having the agent do the whole thing for them. And the people who get the most out of the agent are the people who tell it what to do, not how to do it. And they let the agent make the decision about what tool is best for the job, and it will use the tool that it is most familiar with based off of its language model. Right.
So what's happening is you're not encouraging it to write TypeScript. It's just the frontier models tend to just do that.
On the Replit side, so we do have stack encouragement for it, but it's also because when we encourage the stack structure, we want it to have a proper separation of concerns, proper software architecture decisions of client, server, database, like actually configuring this right so that you can scale it up and actually do it to production instead of, hey, just make like a client side where we outsource the back end to some third party and use edge functions or whatever, which on the enterprise side is not the way that they write their code. And so when you give it to the enterprise, like your enterprise devs, they have to rewrite everything, right?
As a follow-up question, can you generate Swift or Kotlin?
The question was
native app.
Yeah, the question was, can we do Swift or Kotlin or just like generally mobile applications for it? So like all things are possible with correct implementation. I'd say the infrastructure is in place for it, because what we're doing is we're spinning up a full cloud VM and using Nix for all the package management. And so we have like one of the most interesting Nix architectures of I think anyone in the world currently, where you can hot load binaries into it. So you say like, hey, I want Swift. It hot loads it from a cache into there, and you immediately have it available, right? Again, what I'd say is that the performance is not as good. And also, like for the agent loop, the thing that you want is for it to be able to read back its errors and debug itself as it's looping. And that's harder to do when it has to go talk to the mobile device versus when you're doing on that. And so the speed at which it's improving is much faster on the websites and server-side application side versus mobile. Right.
All right. Is that it? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Cool.